Well, shit.
What are y'all doing?
This is awful. I'm Deontay.
I'm Jordan.
And today we're going to be bringing another discussion today. This time it will be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Just like the other videos, if you haven't already, go check out our previous reviews, 1 through 4. So we're just going to get into this book. Again, it is a long one, so we're just going to get right into it. Alright, so we are back with Harry and Dudley. They're at some playground or walking home, one of the two, and they get attacked by Dementors. Harry fights off both the Dementors to save him and Dudley using his newly learned spell, the Patronus. Mrs. Figs comes by, and she's apparently aware that he is a wizard because she is a squib. Dumbledore put her there or told her to watch out for Harry. Dungus Fletcher, we know, was supposed to be watching them, but he wasn't, and we'll find out what he was doing. But Dudley gets attacked by the Dementors. Harry takes him home, and then that's when Uncle Vernon and Petunia, find out about what happened.
Yeah, so this is Harry's first time realizing that there are other wizards where the Dursleys live. He didn't know that Miss Fig was a squib. So she tells him, keep your wand out just in case they come back. And he's trying to figure out really what's going on. They get back to the house, and he's trying to explain to Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon what's happening. Uncle Vernon is instantly upset, and he's like, you gotta go. You bring in way too much stuff into our house. And Aunt Petunia knows what the Dementors are too. So Harry is about to leave, then he gets some owl post. He gets one letter saying that he's expelled from Hogwarts, and he gets another letter saying just sit tight. And he gets a third letter saying that he's not expelled, but he has to go on trial before he goes back. Then he gets another letter from Sirius saying don't leave the house. And Uncle Vernon is trying to kick him out because at this point he's scared. And then Aunt Petunia gets a howler basically telling her, remember our arrangement. So then she's like, Harry has to stay here. And Harry's really angry at this point. He's like, nobody is even acknowledging that I just fought off these Dementors by myself. Like, everybody's just mad that I did magic outside of school, but like, what about all the great stuff that I just did?
He got like his 4th letter, and he's like, bruh, and nobody said it, nobody's telling me nothing. Like,
right.
4 letters, and I was surprised too that none of those letters that they acknowledged. And you can kind of see now, because like these movies are the ones that kind of take that dark tone, like in the opening, how it's all like dark and cloudy and light, and so now it's more of like
you can feel the presence of Voldemort.
You can feel things starting to turn, not only in the Wizarding world but also on Harry, and it doesn't get better. Like, everything from this point just goes straight down here. All right, so the Dursleys are upset with Harry. They send him to his room. He's upset, so he sends letters to Sirius, Hermione, and Ron. No one writes him back. The Dursleys go out one day, and they leave him there. So a group of wizards come and actually, I guess, break Harry out again for the second time, led by Moody, Tonks, Kingsley, and some other wizards. I can't remember the names, but they take Harry to Grimmauld Place. They found brooms in the middle of the night. Grimmauld Place is not a place you can see. You have to think about the place, and then it appears, so it's not there just for anyone to see. But they go in Grimmauld Place. He's greeted by Mrs. Weasley. She tells him that she has a meeting. She'll speak to him later. Sends him upstairs with Ron and Hermione, where he is pissed that no one has told him anything. So he kind of let them know how he feels. They try to listen in on the meeting using Fred and George's extendable ears. They hear that Snape is there giving a report and that he's on their side. So after that, we get now we find out that this place, actually we find out that Mr. Weasley and Percy had a falling out. Percy got promoted, which I don't know how, because his boss was killed basically under his nose. But he got promoted. Dumbledore thinks it's so that he can spy on, so Percy can spy on them with the whole ministry is now basically the ministry versus Hogwarts or Dumbledore, whichever one you want to see. And then we get to find out that the house was actually owned by Sirius Black's parents, but Tonks drops a picture, and it's his mother. She starts screaming, and then that's when he walk in and start the whole meeting with Harry at dinner.
Right, so we learned that this is Sirius's family's house. He's the last of the Black, so he has inherited the house. He's decided to give it to Dumbledore to use for order business. So they're having a meeting. After the meeting, they have dinner, and Harry is present for the dinner. Sirius asks, does he have any questions about Voldemort? Obviously, Harry has been at the Dursleys all summer, so he's been disconnected from the wizarding world. Sirius asks, does he have any questions? Mrs. Weasley becomes the kind of helicopter mom here, and she still wants to keep him kind of away from all of that. But Sirius and Mr. Weasley and Lupin all agree that Harry needs to know what's happening. So at this point, Voldemort is in hiding. When he took Harry at the Wizard tournament in the last book, he did not expect anybody to see him. He thought that he was just gonna kill Harry and then come back into power. But now that Harry is still alive and has told Dumbledore, and we know that Voldemort is back, he's now in hiding because his plan didn't go according to how he wanted it to. So the Order now is joining together to make sure that Voldemort does not gain more power. They want to make sure that Death Eaters are not putting people under the Imperious Curse, and they just want to make sure to keep that contained while they figure out how they're going to defeat him, since they no longer have the support from the Ministry. Fudge is still trying to discredit all of this. He thinks that Dumbledore is just after his job, and he does not believe that Voldemort is back.
Scared, that's what it is. So
right.
The Order of the Phoenix is basically is a group put together to help fight against Dumbledore. The last time he rose to power, so they're kind of
fight against Voldemort. You said Dumbledore.
Does that Dumbledore? Mm-hmm. Against Voldemort, the last time he rose to power. So they're basically getting the band back together again. And Harry wants to join, but Miss Weasley's like, he's too young. Which, Harry has all this, he has all of this want to fight, which is good, but he doesn't know anything. Like, he knows nothing. Like, no spells. You have one spell to your name. Well, two now.
Right.
And you want to go out and fight fight Voldemort.
And most of the stuff he's learned so far is just kind of been like basic, luck, right?
Basic and luck. So he needs Hermione and Ron. But I do think it's good that they told him something. I think he earned it. He earned the right to know something about, especially after what he went through.
So he's, like we said, we're in Sirius's house. We get kind of some backstory about Sirius's family. They were more into the dark arts. Sirius did not agree with the way that his family was going. He talked about how all of the Death Eaters are kind of somehow intertwined because they're all the purebloods, and all purebloods all are family somehow. Like, he's related to the Malfoys. He's related to Bellatrix, who we're going to hear about later. His brother was a Death Eater who was killed by Voldemort. So he's in this house he doesn't really want to be. He left home when he was 16 and went to go live with James Potter. So his family has disowned him at this point. They took him off the family tapestry. So now he's back in the house. Their house elf creature is still there. He's very upset that they're using his master's house for Order of the Phoenix business. And so he's upset all the time. And Sirius is just trying to use it for just Order business, and that's it.
All right, so now it's time for Harry's hearing. Mr. Weasley takes him to the Ministry of Magic, where his hearing is being held. They actually switch the times on him, or switch the place.
Both. They
switch time and place on him, and then so he's late to his hearing, and Fudge is giving him shit about it, even though he changed it at the last minute, and the whole point of that was to probably throw off Dumbledore. But Dumbledore said he'd been in there for 3 hours waiting for you to do something like this. So they get to the meeting. One of the jurors on the stand was Umbridge, but Fudge is trying to accuse Harry of doing magic illegally. Harry tells him no, it was Dementors there, and it was like, no, it wasn't. Dumbledore says we got a witness. They bring in Mrs. Fig. Mrs. Fig tells them she's a squib. They says they'll check her background or whatever, but end of the day, Harry is found not guilty. Dumbledore doesn't even acknowledge Harry, which pisses him off even more. After the hearing, they go back to Grimmauld Place, and then
Dumbledore was getting on Fudge though, because Fudge was like, "There's no way there could have been Dementors there," and then he brought in the witness, so now we know there's Dementors, and he's like, "So are you gonna admit now that these Dementors are under somebody else, or are you gonna say that the ministry sent them? Like, which one is it? You can't keep saying that you don't believe that something bad is about to happen, and also say that, you know."
Dumbledore, when he want to be, he has these moments of like greatness, and then it's like the other moments, like, how could you let this happen?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do, like, why would he put somebody like Madonna's Fletcher on watch for Harry? Why would you leave someone like that, some sketchy individual that you know is sketchy? Why would you give him such an important task like that?
He's trying, man. He's doing his best.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back at Grimmauld Place now. We've just learned that Ron and Hermione are going to be prefects this year. Mrs. Weasley is ecstatic. She throws a party to celebrate. Harry is a little jealous.
He's jealous, Potter? He's such a hater. He gets everything.
And the only thing that makes him feel better is knowing that his father also was not a prefect. Like, Lupin told him that, and he's like, all right, it's cool then.
Less company.
So they have a party. Moody comes to the party, and he tells him that there's a boggart in the house. Mrs. Weasley says she's going to go take care of it. It turns out, the boggart turns into your deepest fear. She sees her family dying, and she just breaks down. She can't defeat the boggart, so Lupin and Moody come in and do it for her, and she just starts to tell them, like, she's afraid of what's going to come. She's like, what if my family dies? And so Harry hears that, he sees that, he kind of internalizes it. He also, that night, he has a dream. His scar is hurting, and he has a dream about some long hallway.
Ooh. Alright, so now it's time to go back to school. They get to the Hogwarts Express. Ron, Hermione, they go sit at the prefect's cart. So Harry has to go with Neville and Luna Lovegood. So her father is the author of the Quibbler. They were discussing about the stories in the Daily Prophet about Harry and Dumbledore. And that's when we learned that Malfoy comes by. We learned that he's a prefect, so that's something that they're gonna have to deal with now. They get to the school. The invisible carriages in the previous books are no longer invisible. Now Harry sees these horses looking things that we later find out are called thestrals, but only Harry can see them. Ron can't see them. Harry and Luna. Professor Grubbly Planks is there to greet them instead of Hagrid, which is what they're normally accustomed to. So they get inside the Great Hall, still no Hagrid, and then that's when the sorting ceremony begins.
And the Sorting Hat has a new song this year. It's basically warning the students about sticking together. Normally it just has the same song every year, but this year it's telling them no matter what house you're in, we all have to stick together. And the friends in the book, they talk about that. They're like, has the Sorting Hat ever given us advice before? And then Nearly Headless Nick comes by and says, only when the school's in trouble.
Then Dumbledore gets up, he gives his speech, and before he can, finish giving his speech, Professor Umbridge steps in. Professor Umbridge steps in, and she kind of takes over his speech. And then that's when Hermione lets him know that the ministry is interfering with Hogwarts business.
So we meet Dolores Umbridge. She is the most annoying, just snobbish, just arrogant teacher that we've met so far. She is going to be teaching defense against the dark arts this year. She tells the students that all their previous teachers have put them in way too much danger. It'll be much different this year.
It's kind of true though. They have put them in.
But they need to know these things.
Professor Quill was literally Dumbledore. He had Dumbledore on the back of his head. Voldemort. I don't know why I keep saying that. Who's number? Gilderoy Lockhart literally had them down there with fighting a basilisk by himself. He didn't know anything. Professor Lupin was a werewolf.
He taught them a lot, though.
He taught them a lot, but he was a werewolf. And then
Fake
Moody he did get someone killed. So
Fake Moody taught them a lot too, though.
Fake Moody also tortured them with those unforgivable.
But did they die though?
Did they die?
Did you die?
They didn't die.
See, they were fine. And now here comes Umbridge, and all she wants to do is have them read the book and write stuff down. And Hermione is like, how is this going to help us do anything? And Professor Umbridge tries to keep this whole vibe that they're not in trouble, everybody is safe, and then here comes Harry. He's just lashing out on everybody this year.
Sassy Potter, he don't give a
Right.
fuck.
He tells her that she's a liar in front of the class. He says that Voldemort is back, and so because of that, now he has to do detention with Dolores Umbridge, which makes him miss Quidditch tryouts.
I don't know how I feel about making him so angry and so tactless. Like, he did it once, okay, but he kind of like kept doing it.
He's a teenager. He's moody. He's probably like going through puberty and stuff. And also, like, he's seen Voldemort twice now. I mean, once that he remembers, but...
But still, like, after the, like, third detention, it's like, all right, calm down. They're not going to believe... They don't believe you. Find another way to get your message across because this is not working.
I guess. So, he misses Quidditch tryouts. Ron is trying out this year. He makes the team, but they tell Harry... he's going to need a lot of work. Like, he basically only made the team because he's Harry's friend. So Harry knows he's going to have to work with him. Anyway, he has detention with Umbridge. She makes him write, "I mustn't tell lies," and using a special pen, which every time he writes with it, it carves into his hand. So now his hand is bleeding. And that just kind of gives us an idea of how diabolical Umbridge is going to be this school year. She also comes over and touches him while he's in detention, and it makes his scar hurt, so it makes the reader feel like she's working with Voldemort.
Yeah, I kind of like the diabolicalness though. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I still like it just a little bit.
The fact that they dress her up though in like all pink and she has cats and she's supposed to be this dainty little thing, and then every time she comes to Harry, his scar starts hurting, like, that is creepy.
I mean, I hate her character, but she has some, you know, at least she came in and done something. She shook things up, and that's what I like. Whether it's for good or for bad, when the character's supposed to be bad, make them bad. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Make us hate them. Like, you know, don't make them weak or flat, which she did, because I hate that bitch. Alright, so after detention, Harry's worried that his scar's burning around Umbridge, so he sends a letter to Sirius, and then Ron actually receives a letter from Percy telling him to stay away from Harry and because he's dangerous, and to get on Umbridge's good side because Dumbledore may not be in charge there anymore. And we can kind of see that process starting to take place because then Umbridge is appointed Hogwarts High Inquisitor. So now she can expect the other teachers and, you know, see how they're doing as far as teaching. So she gets on Professor Trelawney's ass ASAP with a quickness. She then goes.
She's rude too.
Yeah, she
in her class. She's like, "You didn't see that coming."
Like that's how it works.
Right.
No, it's not how it works. So she's on everybody's nerves. So
McGonagall didn't back down though when she was in her class.
Oh yeah, McGonagall OG. She don't play that shit.
No.
So she actually tells her class that Professor Quirrell was the best Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher they had. And Harry was like, "Bitch, he had Voldemort on the back of his head." He got another detention for that. So then after his second detention with Umbridge, Ron and Hermione are waiting for him with some medicine for his hand. And then Hermione brings up the idea that maybe he should start giving Defense Against the Dark Arts class lessons to the other students since they aren't learning anything real from Umbridge. And then how's that go?
So Harry is initially very upset. He's like, this is not a game. He wouldn't want anybody to have to stand up to Voldemort like he has. He's like, basically, it was just luck, and it's like, I'm lucky to be alive right now. So he thinks about it for a little while. Then it comes time for them to have their next Hogsmeade trip. Hermione has set up in the Hog's Head a little meeting for people who are interested in defense lessons. A lot more people come than they were expecting. Some people are just there to kind of discredit Harry or to question him about Cedric. Like, they don't really believe what happened in the graveyard when they were in the Triwizard Tournament. So then Cho actually stands up for Harry, saying, like, either you believe and you're going to stay or y'all can go, basically. So they form their group, and they have to sign their names if they want to have defense lessons. And then Hermione tells them that they'll figure out a way to secretly tell them where and when they're going to meet. So then, fast forward to back at school, Umbridge has come up with a new rule that all clubs and organizations have to be approved by her. So then Ron is kind of paranoid. He's like, maybe somebody snitched about our meeting. Hermione's like, there's no way they could have, because she jinxed the paper that they signed, so they would have known if anybody had come forth and told about it. So then Harry gets more letters, and Professor McGonagall tells him that he needs to be careful because now the mail is being monitored. So then he sees Sirius in the fire. He tells Sirius about his scar hurting when Umbridge is around. Sirius doesn't think it has anything to do with it. But then while he's talking to Sirius in the fire, Umbridge's hand comes through. So we know that she kind of knows that something is going on. So at this point, it's getting like really tricky to get in contact with Sirius or any Order of the Phoenix business.
All right. After almost catching Sirius in the fire, Professor Umbridge is now starting to monitor Harry's mail. Hedwig was even attacked, so that kind of makes Hermione second guess whether they should even start this club. Gryffindor is allowed to practice again. Their first practice is in the rain. After practice, Harry's scar starts to hurt. He can start to feel Voldemort emotions. He can feel that he's angry now. He felt when Umbridge touched his scar, he felt that Voldemort was happy.
This, as a reader, it kind of makes you understand that there's a stronger connection between Harry and Voldemort as well. Like, they're building up the anticipation for us to see, like, what is this real connection between them.
Exactly. And so after, so Dobby brings Hedwig back to Harry after, she was healed. And then that's when Harry asks, Dobby, is there anywhere that we can practice, they can use to practice their defense classes? And then Dobby tells them about the room of requirement. So now that they have a place, they spread the word that first lesson will be in the room of requirement. It's just a room that appears whenever a person needs it, and it has what you need. So if you needed a bathroom, it would turn into a bathroom. So the first lesson they practice is the first defense they practice is the Expelliarmus charm. Or is it charm? It's not a curse, right? It's a spell. So they practice Expelliarmus. After they practice in pairs. After the meeting, they use the Marauder's map to get everyone back to their commons room safely without being caught. So their first actual Quidditch match after the defense class is against Slytherin. The Ron has a very poor game, but they do end up beating Slytherin. But after the game, Malfoy is talking crap to Fred. Mm-hmm. Talking crap to Fred. So Harry and Fred beat up Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle or whatever. So
Muggle dueling.
Professor McGonagall was upset. They was at the Muggle dueling, and then that's when Umbridge steps in. She writes another decree or what it was, and then she ended up banning Fred and Harry from Quidditch for life.
Craziness. So at this part in the book, which is not in the movie, we finally see Hagrid. The friends go to his hut, and we learn that he's been off with giants. We know that he's half giant, so he and Madame Maxine traveled to go see the giants. They're trying to get them to be on Dumbledore's side in all of this madness before Voldemort's people get to them. The first day that they get there, it goes well. They know that they need to bring gifts to the giants to befriend them. The one giant that's in charge is Gurg, and they befriend him, and they think that everything is cool, but then a bigger, more powerful giant ends up killing Gurg. So now Hagrid and Madame Maxine need to get on his good side, which they don't. And then that giant starts to attack Hagrid. Madame Maxine uses magic on the giant, which giants hate magic. So then that just completely squashed their whole plan. They had to get away. The giants were beating them up. They had to hide in caves. While they were hiding, they saw some Death Eaters come and give gifts to this new giant in charge, and the giant accepted. So now they know that the giants are going to be on the dark side. So Hagrid comes back, he's all beat up, he's bruised, he's telling this story to the friends in his hut, and then Umbridge knocks on the door, so the friends have to go hide. She asks who is he talking to, she starts questioning him, and she tells Hagrid that she's going to observe his class. So Hermione is very worried for him. We already know what kind of lessons that Hagrid usually teaches, and Hermione wants to help him teach a normal lesson while Umbridge is in there. Hagrid's like, it's fine, it's all going to be fine. He ends up teaching about Thestrals that day that Umbridge is observing him, and she questions him. She writes down mean things about him, saying that he's unfit. Hermione thinks that she's just trying to get rid of all the half-breeds. And it just didn't go well. So we know that Hagrid is probably going to be in trouble, just like Trelawney is. She's on probation right now, so we kind of fear for Hagrid's job at this point. Now after that, Harry is asleep. He has a dream about Mr. Weasley being attacked by a snake. So he wakes up, he tells Ron he thinks that they were in the Ministry, so they need to get to Mr. Weasley so that they can save him.
Alright, so when Harry wakes up from his dream, Ron and McGonagall take Harry to Professor Dumbledore. Professor Dumbledore has him go over what he saw, and so they send old headmasters to the Ministry, via the portrait method, and they confirm that Mr. Weasley was attacked. They send him to St. Mungo's. They send the Weasleys and Harry back to Grimmauld Place. They want to go see Mr. Weasley, but they can't. And then Mrs. Weasley sends a letter to him, let him know he's okay. They just can't get the bleeding to stop without the bandages. So then the kids use the extendable ears, and they hear Moody say that Voldemort may be controlling Harry, and Dumbledore is worried. So with that knowledge, Harry is feeling kind of bad that he thinks that Voldemort can see everything that he sees, so he feels like he's putting people in danger, so he gets his stuff to pack up. And then as he's packing up, he gets a letter from Dumbledore telling him to stay where he's at. And then the rest of the game convince him that, he's okay if they're not scared of him. And Ginny told him, I know about being in control of Voldemort, so you're good. So they're there in Grimmauld Place for Christmas. Sirius is happy, everyone is there. Eventually they get to visit Mr. Weasley in the hospital. He tried to stitch himself up using Muggle stitches, and Mrs. Weasley was upset about that. They see Lockhart in the permanent spell unit from his memory charm. And then they also see Neville and his grandma with his parents, and she's upset that Neville was embarrassed to tell everyone about the bravery of how his parents got there.
Right. So now after they go to the hospital, it's time for them to go back to school. Christmas break is over. At this point, we do know that there is a connection between Harry and Voldemort, because Harry can see things that Voldemort is doing. So now Dumbledore is worried that the same is happening on the other end, that Voldemort can see things from Harry's perspective. So he decides that Harry needs to take occlumency classes, which he's going to do with Snape. Occlumency is the defense against the mind. So Snape is trying to teach Harry to black out his ideas and his feelings so that Voldemort can't get to him that way. So they're about to start their classes. Snape actually takes some of his memories out and puts them in the pensieve before they begin, which is a foreshadowing for us to see that there's obviously something in his mind that he does not want Harry to know about. After he does that, he does the Legilimens charm on Harry to try to get into his head. Harry is supposed to fight it. He can't fight it the first time. He goes back to this dream about the hallway, and now it's even more in depth. It's a hallway that's in the Department of Ministries. So Snape is telling him he needs to clear his mind before he goes to bed, because if he has these dreams, Voldemort can access them. So Harry leaves. He tells Ron and Hermione about the thought that was in his head during occlumency, and he says that whatever Voldemort is after, whatever weapon it is, it's in the Department of Ministries. So now he wants to figure out a way to go there. At this point, he feels Voldemort again. He senses that he's happy, and it's like a really evil laugh that Voldemort is doing, and uncontrollably, Harry does it with him. So then we start to see that this connection is becoming even stronger.
Physical now. It's
right.
Like a physical connection along with being a mental connection. All right, so they get the Daily Prophet. They get news of the Daily Prophet that 10 prisoners escaped from Azkaban, one of them being Bellatrix. And then the prophet tried to blame it on Sirius because he's the only one to escape from Azkaban, and he's still at large. So they're saying he obviously must have helped them escape. But then
it couldn't have been the Dementors, right?
It could have been the Dementors.
Like, what are they even there for? If 11 people now have escaped under your watch, like, what are y'all even here for?
So now people are starting to think just like you, like, man, it's not adding up.
Right.
So now they're starting to maybe believe that, you know, Harry was telling the truth. And so, you know, Umbridge comes out with another rule that teachers can only teach facts. They can't give their opinions. And so Harry's scar is also starting to, Neville is starting to work harder at defense classes now that he knows Bellatrix is now free. So Harry, his scar is starting to hurt after all of his occlumency lessons. So Ron suggests that maybe Snape is helping Voldemort more than helping Harry, or not helping Harry at all. But Hermione says, no, Dumbledore trusts him, so then we have to trust him. They take another Hogsmeade trip. This time, Harry has a day with Cho. She starts to discuss Cedric while trying to get in good with Harry, which I don't know, you know.
She's just confused.
Just confused. She starts crying. Harry's like, all right,
I'm gonna head out.
I gotta go meet with Hermione. I'll see you later. And then she's upset. She leaves Harry all crying and whatnot. And so Harry meets up with Hermione, and then she has Rita Skeeter with her, and they convince Rita to write Harry's story in the Quibbler. How does that turn out?
So Harry meets with Hermione. He's like, I don't even know what I did. Like, he wants her to explain what happened with Cho, and she explains, like, of course, she's still confused about what happened with Cedric. Nobody has really had any answers because the only person who saw it firsthand that could tell is Harry. And of course, he's not ready to talk about it. She said, not only is Cho confused about that, but also you left her to come be with another girl. So she probably just all upset. But anyway, the Quibbler comes out, and then more people are starting to believe Harry's side of the story. And then, of course, Umbridge comes out with a new rule. There could be no Quibblers at school. She's just tearing down anything that could possibly go against her or the ministry's beliefs.
And it makes it look so obvious that you're trying to hush them up. Like, you coming out with these things over every little thing. Like,
right.
Next, if Harry's walking backwards, it's like, hey, no walking backwards in Hogwarts. Like, what are you doing? Calm down. You're making it so obvious that you're lying. You're trying to hide something.
Right. So now Harry is still having these dreams. He has another dream about the hallway. He gets further into it. He goes into the Department of Mysteries. But he's not able to see what it is that Voldemort is after just yet. He tells Hermione about the dream. She says that he needs to try harder in occlumency classes. So now he's back with Snape. They're having another class. Snape is trying to get into his mind, and Harry's supposed to be fighting that off. But, you know, he still has Ron in his ear saying that maybe Snape is helping Voldemort. So Harry ends up doing a counter curse to the Legilimens, or counter spell, I'm sorry, which is Protego. And he goes into Snape's memories. And, Snape is talking about the Dark Lord in his memory, so now Harry is questioning, why do you call him the Dark Lord? Because everybody else says he who must not be named, or you know who. Only his followers call him the Dark Lord. So now Harry is even more paranoid. Snape doesn't have a chance to answer because they hear a lot of commotion in the Great Hall, so they both leave Snape's office and go see what's going on. At this point, Umbridge has fired Trelawney, which, I mean, if we're being honest, we know, if you've read all the books, we know why Trelawney was there, but at this point, she just looks like a fraud. She deserved to be fired. So she's hysterical. All the students are in the hallway trying to stand up for her, basically just because they hate Umbridge. And then Dumbledore comes to her defense and says that she can stay. Even if she's not a teacher there, she can still stay at Hogwarts.
All right, so after Umbridge fired Trelawney's ass, they hired Firenze, a centaur, to replace her. He actually was banned from his hair from taking the job, so they have a new divinations teacher. Then after that, he's actually asked to get a message to Hagrid. Hagrid declines. So now, during their next Defense Against the Dark Arts meeting, Dumbledore's army, Dobby comes back and lets them know Umbridge knows she finna come bust y'all ass. So they try to leave. Harry is caught. They take him to Dumbledore's office, what Umbridge does, and there is Fudge, Percy's there, Kingsley's there, and so Dumbledore takes the blame. He says, "This is all me. I told him to do it." And so now Fudge is trying to take Dumbledore to Azkaban, and Dumbledore's like, "Who? Going away? Nah." And so him and Fox deuce up out of there, but before he leaves, he tells Harry that he needs to really study and get good at occlumency, which he doesn't do.
So now, of course, Dumbledore is gone, and that only leads to Umbridge being the headmaster. Everybody is upset about that, except Filch. He is the only one that's happy. He's like, yes, I get to beat the kids now. But everybody else is upset. The twins, Fred and George, start doing even more pranks. They're just acting out, rebelling. They set off fireworks in the school. During this time, Harry has another dream, and he actually gets into the Department of Mysteries in this dream. Then he wakes up. So then he has more occlumency classes. He remembers what Dumbledore said. He needs to get good at that. While he's in occlumency, Malfoy comes and tells Snape that he's needed elsewhere. So Snape leaves Harry in his office unattended. Harry, being nosy, goes to see what's in the pensieve, what thoughts Snape did not want him to get control of. Like we said, Harry is still thinking that he's maybe on Voldemort's side, so he's probably thinking that he's going to see something like that in the memories. He goes into Snape's memory, and it's actually of him when he was a child, when he befriended Lily, who is Harry's mother. This is before they even started at Hogwarts. He was telling her about it because she was Muggle-born, but she had magic. Her parents, her sisters didn't understand, but Snape saw her and started showing her that he could do magic too, so they befriended in that way. Now, when they got to Hogwarts, she started seeing other people.
They got separated. He went to Slytherin, she went to Gryffindor, and that's when she met James.
And she started kind of hanging with other people in Gryffindor. Snape was very upset about that. He wanted her to only be his friend. He said that he didn't like those other people. Even Lily at first said that they were arrogant. They played jokes on Snape, in which they kind of were arrogant, if we're being honest.
James,
like Lupin,
James was an ass. James was an ass. All of them were asses. Yeah,
right.
They were all asses.
And so Lily was still on Snape's side until he was so mad at James that he said very hurtful things to Lily. So then she stopped hanging out with him. She started hanging with James and his crew. And that is a lot of why Snape hates James so much, other than the fact that he played jokes on him. So Harry is seeing all of this in the memory. When he comes out of that pensieve, Snape is actually back in the office. Snape is livid. He's furious. He says, don't ever come back. So he's basically telling Harry that occlumency is over. After Dumbledore just told him
to get good at it. Now he
can't even do it anymore. All because he was being nosy.
Told you, man. Look, the dude do whatever he wants. Alright, so Harry now needs to talk to Sirius after being kicked out of classes with Snape. He tells Fred and George that they need to set up a distraction, because now the only fireplace they can use is the one in Umbridge's office, because all the rest of them are being monitored by the Ministry. So they agree to set up a plan to distract Umbridge, but Harry has to go to career advice. They have to pick a career when they graduate Hogwarts, and so he's going to be an Auror, or wants to be an Auror. And while he's in, his career advice with McGonagall, Umbridge is there, and she's like, no. You pick something else, you'll never be an Auror. And then McGonagall's like, he's going to be an Auror, and I'm going to make sure that's the last thing I do. So after, he has this career day with McGonagall, now it's time to go speak to Sirius. So Fred and George do distract Umbridge, and he goes to the fireplace. He speaks to Sirius. Sirius tells him that he needs to go force Snape to continue his occlumency classes. And then Harry hears something. He thinks it's Umbridge, but it's actually Filch. So he comes out of the fire, and then Umbridge is about to let Filch beat the shit out of Fred and George, I guess. And so they grab their brooms. They grab their brooms and they leave Hogwarts for good, and they never come back. So then there's another Quidditch match, and then that Hagrid asks Harry and Hermione to come with them to the forest, because Harry can't play anymore. So he's watching the Quidditch match. So he asks Hermione and Harry to come to the Forbidden Forest with him, and we find out that he brought back his brother Grop, who was also a giant, and Hagrid's half giant. His brother's full giant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's full giant, and that's when he asked them to take care of him because he feel like he's gonna get fired any day now, like Trelawney. So they actually run into the centaurs in the forest as well, and they tell Hagrid that he's not welcome back in the forest anymore after he saved them from kicking the shit out of Firenze's ass, and he brought a giant into the forest.
Right, so Hagrid, like Deontay said, we know that it's a possibility that he may be kicked out. So now the students are in their end of year exams. During one of the exams, they overhear Umbridge and a group of other wizards going to Hagrid to do just that. They try to stun him. Hagrid becomes furious. He's obviously much bigger than the rest of them, so he fights them off and then he runs and escapes. So that's exactly why he was wanting them to take care of Grop in case anything happened to him. That happened during one exam. Then in Harry's next exam, he ended up falling asleep during it, and he had this same recurring dream again. This time he got even further into the dream. So he goes down the hallway, he gets into the Department of Mysteries, they're in row 97, and he sees Sirius there, and Sirius is being controlled by Voldemort with the Crucio curse. So this is all of what Harry is seeing.
That's the Imperious curse. Crucio is tortured with the pain.
Oh, he's being tortured, sorry. So he's being tortured by Voldemort, and this is all that what Harry is seeing in his dream. So he wakes up, he leaves the exam, he rushes to go tell his friends. Hermione is trying to be the voice of reason here. She says that maybe this is something that Voldemort has placed in your head. Let's just go to Grimmauld Place first. Well, you know, Harry saved Mr. Weasley, so he's thinking it's another one of those type of dreams.
He is one of those, so I guess, but...
Right, so far he's been right, and this is serious. This is his only family that he feels that he has. So
I mean, I don't blame him. I would have went too. I don't blame him.
So Hermione convinces him to try Grimmauld Place first, but again, the only way he can do that is through the fire. They have to go back into Umbridge's office. He goes through the fire and he only sees Creature at Grimmauld Place, and Creature is smiling. He has a smirk on his face. Harry asks him where Sirius is, and he says that Sirius is no longer in the house. So Creature is being a little sneaky with his words there by saying that. That made Harry think that this dream is real and that Sirius is in trouble. So before he can get out of the fireplace, Umbridge actually catches him. She grabs him out of the fire. She demands that she knows who he's been talking to in the fireplace. Hermione is there with him. She comes up with this plan. She says, we were talking to Dumbledore and we were talking about some secret weapon that he left at Hogwarts, and we'll bring you to it if you just... She was trying to off them both.
Yeah, she was gonna fuck him up, real talk.
Yeah, she told Snape to bring Veritaserum so he could tell the truth, and she was gonna put him under the Imperious curse. No, she was gonna do the Crucio curse too on Harry, and that's when Hermione stepped in and told her, you know, we'll bring you to the plan that we were devising.
Alright, so Hermione leads Umbridge, her and Harry lead Umbridge to the forest where they're met by centaurs. She insults them, you know, they take her away. They're about to attack Harry and Hermione, and then Grubb shows up and they attack him instead. So that's when Luna, Ginny, Ron, and Neville show up with their wands, and so Luna comes up with the idea, which she's one of my favorite characters. Luna comes up with the idea that they should ride the Thestrals to the Ministry, and Harry's like, I'm gonna go myself, you know, does everything, and they're like, hey bro, we've been doing these lessons for what if you're not gonna let us come do the real thing with you? So they all go to the Ministry. They can't find a door at first, and then Hermione, you know, she puts X's on the ones that they already went into. So eventually they get to the right door, they get to the right road, 97, and there's a crystal ball with Harry's name on it, and then a figure pops out of nowhere and says, give me that shit.
So it turns out that this is Lucius Malfoy and Bellatrix who have come. They obviously know that this was a setup. They were stationed to be there when Harry arrives. They needed him to get to the crystal ball, to do the dirty work, and they had the plan that they were just going to take it from there.
Because only the person whose prophecy is about can get it.
Right. And Voldemort needs it because he doesn't know what it says. So he wants to know what Harry's prophecy is. Obviously, he now knows, or he should know, that he can't just defeat Harry like he thought he was going to.
Right.
So now the friends have to fight off not only Lucius and Bellatrix, but there are a lot more Death Eaters show up. They stun Hermione. They break Neville's nose. Luna is lost. There's just a whole lot of commotion. They're basically kicking these kids' ass so far. And Harry still has the prophecy. He gives it to Neville, and then Bellatrix is doing the Crucius curse on Neville to try to get to it. So then Harry decides that he's going to give it to her. And just in that time, Moody, Tonks, Kingsley, and Lupin show up. So now they have some help on their side. So now it's just a whole bunch of dueling, stuff flying, curses, spells going everywhere. You know, of course, it's good guys versus bad guys. Everybody's dueling. Sirius is dueling Bellatrix, who is his cousin. At one point, he looks over to Harry and he calls him James, and they have this connection like no other. But just as Deontay has said before, once J.K. Rowling gives Harry something, she snatches it right back. As soon as Sirius calls Harry James, Bellatrix kills him.
Hits him with the Avada Kedavra. It was like the movie, the way they did it, it was so...
R.I.P. Sirius.
R.I.P. Sirius, man.
That one
hurt. That one hurt. Like, Sirius' death, it hurt. The way he just fell in the veil and then just floated off. That one hurt. That one hurt.
So now Harry don't even care about what's going on anymore. He gave the prophecy to Neville, and Neville dropped it. So now we don't even really know what they're fighting for at this point anymore. Now they're just fighting to be fighting.
We don't know what the prophecy said. Right. Nothing. All of this is really different.
Neville had one job. He can't get nothing right. He's the one who let Sirius in by dropping
the paperwork. He has to write the password on a piece of paper because he can't remember it.
Poor Neville. So now, at this point, Harry tries to go with Sirius. He is hoping that he's not really dead. Lupin holds him back, and it's just such a powerful, emotional scene. Not only in the movie, but in the book. Like, while you're reading this, if you picture this in your mind, it's just so emotional.
Like, everything that he gets, he just can't catch a break. Like, I feel bad for him, but the show must go on. All right, so after Bellatrix kills Sirius, she leaves and runs, and then Harry chases after her. He catches her, and he does the Crucio curse on her, but it's not powerful enough. She tells him he has to really mean it.
She just laughed at him, in all of his fury, as mad as he is about what just happened.
She's laughing at him, and she was singing that "I killed Sirius Black." And so he tries to do the Crucio curse on her. It isn't working. It's not powerful enough. So she tells him to give her the prophecy, and he's like, "Bro, that shit got smashed." And so now she's nervous because she failed Voldemort, and Voldemort is, I think he's talking to her too, right, in her mind. And then he shows up out of nowhere, and now he's about to, finish the job. And then Dumbledore, who arrived earlier, he now comes in and stops and saves Harry from the second time of killing her. So now they're fighting, and they have one of the best visually on the movie. Their magic duel was fantastic. So they fight, and Dumbledore's throwing water, and Voldemort's throwing a fire snake, and then the auras show up. Fudge shows up. A lot of the auras show up, and they see Voldemort right when him and Bellatrix are about to disapparate. They see him, and so now they know that Voldemort is back. And so Dumbledore tells Fudge, "Look, man, I want my job back. Get on up out of my school." And then Fudge is like,
"I've been trying to tell you this. You ain't want to listen. Now you gonna talk to me when I'm ready to talk to you.
Come see me in about 30 minutes and call me headmaster."
So Dumbledore creates a port key to send Harry back to Hogwarts. Harry obviously uses the port key. It leads him to Dumbledore's office. He's in there alone right now. He's feeling really guilty about what just happened to Sirius, because obviously it was his fault. He thought
his fault. His fault.
What he thought he was doing to save him is what ended up actually killing Sirius. So he's in there, he's feeling guilty. Dumbledore comes, and now Dumbledore, this is where we just kind of lay everything out on the table. Dumbledore starts to explain everything to him. So going back to the beginning of this book, when Harry was on trial, we know that Dumbledore was kind of avoiding him then, and all at school while Dumbledore was there, he was avoiding Harry. It's because he knew that Voldemort understood the connection that they had. Once Harry went and saved Mr. Weasley, Voldemort came up with this plan to lure Harry in through the vision of Sirius, obviously. So then Harry starts blaming Snape now. He's like, it's his fault he didn't finish occlumency with me because that would have never happened. And Dumbledore's like, actually, Snape is the one that saved you. Then he starts blaming Dumbledore. He's like, it's your fault then because you left Sirius trapped in Grimmauld Place. You know he didn't like it there. He had to stay there. That's why he was so quick to jump up and leave when they heard that I was at the Ministry. Like, he's just furious.
Blaming everybody but himself.
Right. So now Dumbledore is like, okay, now we're at a point where we can't hold no more secrets. We have to tell you everything. So Dumbledore starts the story way back when it first happened. Voldemort did not realize that Harry had the power of love with him. So then that also ties into why Harry has to stay at Privet Drive. Every time that he's not in school at Hogwarts, he has to stay with his relatives, his blood relatives, because he still has that blood bond with his mom and his mom's sister, who is his aunt that he stays with over the summers.
So that's when we find out why Professor Trelawney was hired. Dumbledore knows that, you know, the type of magic or whatever it is she teaches is not good, but she's the one that told him the prophecy in the Hog's Head a while back, and someone overheard it, but they only heard the first part of it. They didn't hear the second part, the most important part, which is what Voldemort needed and why he was trying to get that prophecy out of the Ministry. So the prophecy basically Voldemort set in place, and I'll put the prophecy because I don't remember by heart, but Voldemort, by choosing Harry, set in motion the prophecy. Now the prophecy, it doesn't necessarily mean that what is in it is going to happen. It just so happens that Voldemort, not hearing the full prophecy, he took action and he actually set in motion what will eventually lead to his downfall. So basically, with the prophecy, part of the prophecy, it tells them that neither can live. Neither can live while the other survives. Neither can live while the other survives. So part of that is Harry is starting to understand that one of them has to kill the other, or either he has to kill Voldemort or Voldemort has to kill him. One of the two.
So we know it's the end of the school year because they were taking their exams when all of this kicked off. They now know that Voldemort is back now just because Fudge saw him. Now it's really true. They put it in the Daily Prophet, so everyone knows that Voldemort is back. Harry obviously knows that he has to go back to Privet Drive now that Dumbledore has explained everything to him. He also knows now that Lucius Malfoy is in Azkaban. Draco's upset about that. He goes to visit Hagrid, and Hagrid tells him, this is what Sirius would have wanted. He died doing what he was set in place to do. He died, following the orders.
Protecting his godson.
Right. So they're leaving for the summer. They get back on the train. Malfoy comes, just being regular Malfoy. He starts messing with them. And then a bunch of people that were in the defense class turned Malfoy and his friends into slugs. So then they get back to the train station. That's kind of a callback
too from the second movie when Ron tried to curse Malfoy with slugs, and they turned him into slugs.
So like now he's gotten better.
Yeah.
Is that what it's saying?
Well, his wand actually works now. So he probably would have cursed him right the first time because he did it to himself. It's just his wand was broke.
Right. I guess that's kind of nice to see that now he actually fulfilled it. So he's back at the station. Some of the people from the Order are there. Moody, Tonks, Lupin are there. Mr. Weasley. They see Harry. He's about to leave with Uncle Vernon. And now at this point, they finally say something to Mr. Vernon. They say that, he needs to treat Harry better. And I'm just like...
5 books in.
Why?
5 books in, someone finally tells them about how they treat Harry. 5 books in.
Harry did not need to know all of this about having to stay at Privet Drive for them to say something about the way he's been treated.
They could have done that at any point in time when he was locked in a cupboard. they chose not to. They waited to book 5 to say something. Alright, so that was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. What did you think?
It was the longest book, but it was definitely one of the most interesting because this is where we get to the nitty gritty. Like, now we're starting to understand why everything that's happened so far in the series has happened, and now we know that this is what it is, this is where we're going, and it just feels like the rest of it is just gonna be action packed. It's gonna kick up. We already know somebody's gonna have to die. It's either gonna be Voldemort, or it's gonna be Harry.
So we'll get our answers in the next book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Hopefully see you there. If you made it through this video, thank you.
You're not gonna say this is one of your favorite books?
No, it's not. This wasn't.
Oh, this one isn't.
No, this wasn't.
1 through 4 were one of them.
Right.
Just not this one.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
All right. See y'all. Tune in next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.